Hello and good afternoon, everyone. Hope you all are fit and fine. And today is our webinar number 93. I hope you remember the webinar which was on Saturday, got postponed it somehow, and we are again back live with you all on this particular topic of bullying. So, today we will be starting this webinar, and this webinar will go from 4 to 5, and I hope you have joined. Okay, let me check. So I welcome everyone in this special webinar on bullying, and this webinar is organized by PsyCoolG Connect, an initiative by PsyCoolG Wellness Private Limited, an ISO accredited, certified, and recognized organization from Startup India. We are also certified by MSME, that is part of Government of India. And thank you everyone for joining. And we will be starting with this webinar. But before that, I would like you all to introduce to our guest speaker. Yeah, guest speaker is on our screen. I welcome you, ma'am. And today, our resource person is Ma'am Indrani Ganguly. She is an educationalist, life skill coach, and has an experience of 38 long years. That itself says everything. So I welcome you, ma'am, in this special webinar organized by PsyCoolG Connect, an initiative by PsyCoolG Wellness Private Limited to spread mental health awareness in society and to spread well-being among all.
Thank you.
So the mic is all yours, ma'am. You can begin with the webinar.
Thank you so much, Mr. Saini. It's my pleasure. I hope I'm audible.
Yes,
Uh,
ma'am.
yeah. It's my pleasure to be a part of this beautiful program because you see, wellness of mind is the most important aspect of a human being. If the mind is not well, your body may not be well. You do not know what the reason is, but there is something which will trouble you all through. So that's why, I start my presentation with a slide which says that it's time. Now we go to the first one. We go to the first one. Yeah, it's time we all start looking at ourselves and work on our mental wellness. Before I plunge into the main discourse, I will start with a real life incident. And then, viewers and listeners, you will realize why I'm saying that mental wellness is so important. Well, you see, this was a lady. Let's say, take her name as Miss Lata. She was in her middle age, and she was like any other housewife, doing the daily chores of the house, helping her child with her schoolwork and all of that. Now, what happened one day, she went to the market and she found that there was this lady almost of her age. She could never ever forget that face, that squarish hand, and the person that she knew, when she was in her middle school. Now, what happened? She was in the same class with this other lady, and she was a very obedient, obliging, but soft spoken girl, Miss Lata. And she was a part of the classroom, not noticed by anybody, but she was happy the way she was. Now, one day what happened, the other lady, who was a schoolgirl then, came up to her, put her hand out, and said, Lata, let us be friends. So then Lata suddenly realized, why me? Out of so many people, why is she wanting to be extra friendly with me? So then there was one corner in her heart which said that let me belong to some group at least. So she stretched her hand out too. So then Lata thought that she had made the beginning of a friendship. And then the other girl, not a lady then, and the other girl said, okay, today evening we will meet behind the school field and we will have a game of basketball. So Lata didn't know how to play, but she couldn't refuse either. She said, first day I made friends and she has invited me to the match, to the game maybe. I don't know how to play, but I will learn by and by. All these kind of self-talk was going on while she met a group of girls behind the school building, the garden, the field, which they would refer to as the basketball field, and a nice garden around it, nice pleasant place to be in. So she went there all happy. Now this girl initially said, good, welcome to our basketball team. We will teach you how to play basketball. I'm sure you do not know how to play, but we will teach you how to play. And then, to her utter dismay, all those girls stood around her and they started throwing the ball at her, literally, physically hurting her, laughing at her, mimicking her body language until she cried and she fled from that field. She came back home a little late. Her mother did not interfere much in her school area or her friends or in her personal life. She thought that was Lata's duty. Her duty was to run the house. Lata kept quiet whole evening. She recoiled more and more. Days passed. She finished her school one day and life went on. Now, why I brought this story up is because after all these years, Lata was in her mid 40s. After all these years, when she met the other girl who was also a middle aged lady now, everything came back to her like a post traumatic experience. The trauma of that incident came back to her. Now you see what had happened all these years. This was buried in her mind, in her soul, everywhere. This is not wellness. She carried on. She carried on. But actually, if she was asked to describe her feeling, it would be like she wanted to rip the pages from her life of those days that she experienced. The first one in the basketball field, and there were more which followed. Now, what happened, you see, her mother did not speak to her. Mother could not understand what was going on in Lata's mind. She thought maybe it was her burden of studies or whatever. She didn't even think it was important to talk to her. So there are two things here. One, that there was a buried hurt and sickness inside her soul, which remained there dormant. After all these years, it surfaced up when she saw that woman again. So you see, this is what I'm talking about. Yes, the next one. This is what I'm talking about when I say that it is wellness of yourself which is important. There is something called community psychology. I'm bringing up community psychology a little because, this is about an individual and the society. So, when community psychology is given some importance here, then we will understand that an individual versus the community can make a person grow, or it can totally mar the person's growth. She'll be totally destroyed for the rest of her life. Now, this lady Lata, she was a very quiet person. She could not come out very easily. But one thing she did, she would talk to her daughter. That was the only learning this heart had taught her. So that if there was anything which was disturbing in her daughter's mind, she would be able to access it, address it, help with some solution. So, this is why I am bringing up or mentioning community psychology, where we need to understand that each of us have a speciality, and we need to connect with the society. And the focus of this community psychology can be theoretical, that I can teach somebody how to act in a group, or it could be a practical session. So I'm bringing this in so that anybody who is counseling will be able also to talk about community psychology a little, so that people understand how they can relate to the society. Yes, as I move on with the next slide, you will see that, yes, the next one, that bullying, as all of us know, it's a common word which is used everywhere, and sometimes we use it uh, in a very benign way, that now you're acting like a bully. Somebody who's being dictating a little, maybe not as a bully, but maybe in a different way. We often say in a very laughing and frivolous way, now you're acting like a bully. So, which means that all of us have some idea what bullying is. Basically, basically, it is a way to hurt somebody, to frighten somebody. And whom can we frighten or hurt? Somebody who's lesser in all attributes to me. At least that's my judgment. No, everybody is unique and special. But to that person, if there is any visible shortcoming, the person who is bullying starts being coercive. There will be hurtful teasing, sometimes to the extent of threat. That if you disclose it, threat to the extent that if you disclose it, you will face dire consequences. That kind of a threat. To abuse, aggressively dominate, intimidate, or even, in case you didn't know, ignoring. That also is bullying. That you don't exist for me. You are like a glass. I can see through you. If you are there in the morning, wishing me, waving at me, I choose to ignore you. And then the next one will tell you that, yes, the next slide, so here uh, we can talk about different ways by which bullying takes place. Bullying is something where your entire self becomes diminutive and the other person keeps on expanding. That's the ratio. That's what exactly happens. There are many different types of bullying. Bullying can happen in various ways, various ways. Physical bullying People can actually see. You see, this example I gave you, this incident about Miss Lata, it was physical bullying, absolutely physical bullying. Hitting, kicking, tripping, just put your foot out and somebody trips and falls and everybody else laughs. Pinching somebody, pushing, even damaging property. Physical bullying causes both short term and long term damage. For the time being, it could really create a havoc in your mind if all the time you are the target. Every time you try to move forward with something, you will find that there is an obstacle on the way. I'm talking about your wellness growth. Then there can be verbal bullying, calling names, insulting in front of everybody, teasing, intimidation, then homophobic or racist remarks. Yes, that can also be a part of bullying. Then verbal abuse, just using a very, very slang as if you deserve it. What else? While verbal bullying can start off harmless initially, when friends call you, they call each other names, it appears to be harmless. But if it moves to be something more serious, then watch out. Maybe you're moving towards verbal bullying. So it can escalate to levels which start affecting the individual target. So all the time, if somebody is called by a particular name, okay, a particular name which is not very uh, pleasing to hear, or somebody being called as the kind of work that they do, calling people by those kind of names, you are one of those third class worker. So where is that a name like this, where is that third class worker of ours? Where is that third class worker? Where is he or she? So this is the beginning. Initially, once or twice, people can digest it. But if you are tagged as a third class worker, you start believing also that you are not fit for anything. You are a third class worker. So, what has it done to you? It has actually killed your growth. It's killing your growth. So, when I take you to the next kind of bullying and then I put all of them together, our next slide will tell you, yes, the next one will tell you how social bullying adds more fuel to the fire. Social bullying, sometimes referred to as covert, it's covered initially. You will not even realize that you are being bullied. Like in case of Miss Lata, it was very clear. Hard hitting, physical. But in social bullying, sometimes it's very, very covert, very hard to recognize initially, and often, which is more serious, it's carried on behind the person's back. So far, I do not know whether all of us believe that bullying happens face to face, or when I talk about cyberbullying, maybe it's online and through our handset, mobile, etc. But social bullying can happen when you're not there, it's happening behind your back. Lying and spreading rumors, say for example, it's a kind of bullying. Negative facial or physical gestures, menacing, giving a contemptuous look, like as if you are a superior. You are very, very superior. Sometimes, people think that, well, she's a little arrogant. Her body language is like that. These are misinterpretation and we need to nip it at the bud. Let's find out. Is it her personality? She's an arrogant person. He's an arrogant person. Or is it a kind of bullying which is happening? Playing nasty jokes to embarrass and humiliate, mimicking unkindly, encouraging others to social exclude someone, forming anti-group. Oh, this can be so dangerous for the person who's excluded like this. So you can understand the person who's left out. A lot is going on in the group. A lot is being said about him or her in the group. And everybody knows about it except the person. How hurtful it can be, how difficult it is for a person's confidence to go, damaging someone's social reputation, social acceptance. So we have no right to damage someone else's social acceptance. That you just go to somebody and then talk about Mr. X. Oh, you want to work with him, but you know he's such a late comer. Maybe there was no need to make a statement like that. There was no need to make a statement like that. But a statement had been made. A latecomer. So the person who heard it, well, Mr. X is not punctual. Maybe I should think of somebody else with the job. This is a kind of bullying also. You're damaging somebody's reputation. So you see, what I'm trying to find out here is the overt way by which bullying takes place. If it is physical, we understand bullying is happening. If it is other than physical, you cannot see it, but you can feel and understand it. That is equally, if not more, damaging. So the next slide will tell you, that other than being physically present, being in group, not being in group, mental, social, all that is there. A new addition into this list is cyberbullying. Here, let me just add a word of caution. Cyberbullying not only damages a person's mental health, physical health, reputation, but it pushes the person to the brink of self-harm. With the use of digital technologies, now you see, viewers, today everything is digitized. In this situation that we are in, our digital device is the only way by which we can reach out to our students, we can reach out to our groups, we can reach out to people. So if this is used to create ill reputation about somebody, nothing like it. It will work faster. A new word which we use these days, it goes viral. So cyberbullying can include abusive or hurtful texts, email or post, images, videos, a lot of things happen here, deliberately excluding others online. You suppose you are working in a group, you leave one person out. He or she has no idea what's happening in the group, so they are left out. They cannot update their work. These are all office situations I'm talking about. Imitating others online or using their logins. It can be dangerous. Now for this kind of cyberbullying, I think we need to take the help of police. Absolutely. One should not delay it. But what today I'm talking about bullying. The hurt has been done. The damage has been done. So it is difficult for people to come back from there. Here is in where the family support comes in. The family has to stand by the side of the bullied. So then we have spoken about physical torture. We have spoken about social taboos which are stamped on the person, a latecomer. She she's a third class worker or he's a third class worker. All these tags which come in school we often see, and I'll just give you one or two instances from my experience in school. Um, People, students who are a little quiet, obedient, you'll find that the others attack them more. That's because there is a little analysis here. That's because they see that this child has brought tiffin very well packed so that she can eat that tiffin. And who has packed it? The mother in the house, or maybe grandmother, the caregiver. But at the end of the day, it shows that she is taken care of. Now, the other group who snatches her tiffin, and eats it away, they are the ones who are neglected at home. So they cannot tolerate this, that this little girl is getting all the care at home, and I have been given a 10-rupee note, go and buy something and eat during tiffin break. There is a reason why we create bullies in the society. We create bullies in the society. So start looking if it is possible for us to counsel the mothers, if it is possible to counsel the elders in the family, that give care to the child, give protection to your child. By protection, I do not mean keep her protected or him protected. Protection means mental protection. Be in touch with her, be in connect with her or him. There is a reason why bullies are born. So, as we go on to the next slide, we will see that we look at certain terms here. I have particularly picked these up: vulnerable, weak, obedient, and people who are marginalized in the society. I will quickly give you a kind of a little uh, instances or example where we find out how they are targeted. Vulnerable people are those who are a little physically weak, mentally, submissive. All of us are not the same. Mentally a little submissive or obedient. Obedient, whoever tells them anything, they oblige. And lastly, marginalized in the society. If you are not from the same social background, you could be a target of bullying. It happens in school level, it happens outside in the society, and even in office level. Even in office level, this can happen. Now, here, when I talk about weakness, I will give you an example. It's not physical weakness. Weakness can come from various different areas. The reason why I have started doing this life skill and soft skill training is when I knew that people who do not or cannot speak too well are often kept outside. They don't speak English too well, or they do not wear very good dresses and their shoes clicking as they walk down the corridor. you'll find, yeah, people think twice before they are brought in to the group. It happens in office politics also. So this is the reason why I have started training people that get over your weakness. Get over your weakness. So as I move on with the next part of my presentation, I move on with the next part of my presentation. Uh, we find that here people who are bullied, people who are bullied suffer, and people who are bullies also, they suffer mentally. So it's a kind of a lose-lose situation. And it's a kind of a lose-lose situation. Why? Because because we notice that sometimes the people who bully are actually very fragile egoed person. Now, what do I mean by fragile ego? Narcissistic, they only think about themselves, they have no empathy, and they have to conceal, they have to conceal a lot of their egos, because as I told you that they have not been brought up properly. There had been a lot of past trauma in their lives also. So when I say ego, you all know that it's the person's worth, of course. But when I say fragile ego, it's a lack of confidence. Now, people who are bullies, they are coward basically. They have very low self-esteem. You do not fight from the back. If you are a courageous person, you will fight from the front. So our study needs to go a little deep into it. That if I know that a bully is a coward, what should I do? So as I move on to the next part of my presentation, you see, fragile egoed person, they are very easily flattered because they do not know their worth. If you tell me something which I'm not worth of, and I know what I'm worth for or worthy of, I will just laugh it out, knowing that it's just a joke. But they will be flattered. They'll feel just over the top, and they feel competitive all the time. They are never empathetic. They exaggerate their achievement. They do a little and they talk big. Obsessed with power. Obsessed with power. Maybe power of money. Maybe power of their physical build. Something. Power of their community. Something that gives them the power. They misuse that power. So all these are actually signs of narcissistic personality. Too much of it is not good. You must know your worth. You must know your worth. So as I go on to the next slide will tell us, before we go to the next slide, let me share another story with you. This is also another incident. Yes, I yeah, I will talk about a boy in school. Timothy. Timothy in school was literally harassed by three or four of other classmates. They were in class 9. There was this big built boy and two others who would always be with this fat person. Everybody would call him Derby. Derby. So Fat Derby was the leader, and three other boys were there, and little Timothy would be abused. Food taken away every day, beaten up, tripped, books missing from his desk. All this was going on. So he was very, very upset, very upset. So one day, tears streaming down his face, he went and sat in a park. He went and sat in a park and he was wondering, how can life go on like this? Young boy he was, he should be happy, he should be playing, but here all alone he was sitting there. Then a wasp started buzzing around him with a buzz sound, the way the wasp buzzes around. So the wasp was buzzing around him. Timothy was very intelligent. He was a very intelligent boy. He sat there and he was thinking, a little wasp can frighten me like this, because the wasp knows that it will not be able to overpower me with its mass, volume, weight, height. So what does it have? It has a sharp sting and everybody knows it. What if I started also thinking about some sting of this kind, the wasp sting? He came back home. One thing he knew for certain, that Derby was scared of the police. Everybody has their little fears. Derby was very scared of police. And Derby's right hand was scared of the headmaster. And the other one was very, very afraid of his father, because Timothy knew he would be beaten up with hockey stick now and again. Now you see why bullies are coming up. So what Timothy did the following day, he managed this boy's father's phone number. So when the same trick they played, Timothy put all his courage together, whatever it needed. He fought with himself. He did self-talk. And he said, either it's now or never. So he stood up and he rattled that phone number in front of that boy and he said that I am going to call your father and my father will speak to yours. And he ran away from there. So that was on day one. Next day, that boy did not join the group. And Timothy smiled and said, I still remember that phone number. Hello, I still remember that phone number. My father has it. And this boy looked at Timothy with all fear. For a change, there was fear in the bully's eye. Then came Derby's turn. So Derby was angry. Why is his second in command not helping him today? So he said, okay, you be on your own. I'm going to snatch all the tiffin that he has. And he went off. He put the name of the local police in charge in his tiffin box and told Derby that if you touch that tiffin, I'm calling up the police. My mother will help me. And he sat there. That's it. And in this way, even the third boy also had another clause like this. So here comes the most important part, that we understand that the fragile ego came from where? It has come from some place. The way they are brought up, one which I have already mentioned to you, their negligence at home, that's the second one. Parents can get physical with these boys, abusive. So the early years of bringing up a child is very important. When I say connect with nature, Timothy sat in that garden. Nature helped him. Sometimes we really need to let ourselves go and some solution will come back. Some solution will come back to us. That, the strength which Timothy got was from nature. If you actually analyze, it was from nature. So if I need to act and address a bully, I have to have courage. I need to have wits. I need to have guts, bravery, and above all, intelligence. So if you have them and you know you have them, don't give in, don't give up. That's what we need to teach people who are bullied. If they can open up to you, teach them how to handle this. What is required in moments of rejection is not another bash, not eye for an eye. There has to be a sobriety and a refusal to indulge. Now, if you indulge in something negative, I'm not going to also do the same. Two wrongs cannot make one right. What I need to do is, I need to have some good self talk. That is the stepping stone. I move on to the next slide. So, here we are on the stepping stone. How should you rectify your self talk? You need to counsel yourself, you need to talk to yourself. I would suggest to a great extent practice forgiveness. If you have this inside your heart, soul, mind, it will lie dormant. One day it will become a big tree. A weak person can never forgive. Talk to yourself that I'm much bigger. I am too good for them. So I have to forgive. Practice honesty. Practice honesty. Don't always ask for things. Control your needs. Control your needs and enjoy silent moment with yourselves. Practice gratitude. If I have to summarize this slide, I would say practice a little of spiritualism. You need to also have some spiritual energy in you so that you can control somebody who is absolutely on negative footing. As I go to the next one, you will see that the next slide will tell us how the bully also suffers. What happens to bullies if they are not checked, if they are not counseled, and if bullying goes to a bigger extent, they have to be sent to some rehab center because they get physical. They start alcohol abuse, drug abuse, getting into fights, taking property, always breaking laws, engage in sexual activity, and it can lead to even criminal offense. And it starts with their school days, it remains there. Even later on, when they are romantic partners and their husbands and their fathers, spouses and children also gets bullied. So this has to be nipped at the bud. A bully can become a total destruction. Now then, what happens to the bullied? Our next slide will tell us what happened to the bullied. Yes, as I move on, you see what happens. Initially, remember what happened to Miss Lata? Depression, anxiety, increased feeling of sadness. She would not talk to anybody. A sense of loneliness. I have nobody to talk to. Change in sleep pattern, dropouts from school, and obviously this will lead to health complaints. Eating disorder will appear, academic achievements will suffer, and this can lead to self harm, as I told you. This can lead to self harm if it is not addressed at the initial stage. So, adults in the family, parents, caregivers, good friends, whoever, should try and find out there is something not right with this person. Now, what is not right with this person can only come through talking, questioning, sharing one's own experience. And then they might share their experience, and you will hit the jackpot. That now I know what has happened, I've saved one life. So you see, the bullies and the bullied both are losers here. So my next slide will tell you that as I go on to my next slide, that it's a lose-lose situation. Nobody wins here. So if a situation leads to total loss here, loss on the other side, why myself will remain like a bystander? The bystanders who watch these kind of bullying also get affected because they cannot disclose it to anybody. They are also being bullied by somebody. They are a part of that gang, bully gang. That will lead to mental health problem, and sometimes they become a little scared. They do not know whom to open up to, so they miss school. They skip school. They even start alcohol abuse, drug abuse, so that it gives them a temporary relief. So you see here, the bullies, the bullied, the bystanders, everybody gets affected. It's a total lose lose situation. Nobody wins here. So, don't you think it's time we found out where the problem is? As a teacher in the classroom, as a mother or a father in the house, as a guardian in the house, as a good friend in office area, try and find out where things are not working right. And as I almost conclude this, I will once again talk about two things. That is, what did I start with? Vulnerable, weak, marginalized in the society, no obedient. That's one group of people. And what do I need to do in order to get over all that? Because if you actually come to think of it, all those are good attributes in a person's character. I'm an obedient person. I obey my parents. So that's a good thing. Being marginalized in the society is not my fault. Or, if you are weak, where is your weakness? Start working. Nowadays, we talk about it. Start working on your weakness and strengths. Look at your weakness, work on your strength. So, look at those 4 points which I mentioned simultaneously, what Timothy did. That is what we need to do. All of us, we need to fight. Show your courage. It's today or never, now or never. Show your guts, show your courage, show your intelligence and your bravery. So, with that, I conclude today. Thank you so much for being my audience, and it was a pleasure sharing my study with you all.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. It was really a wonderful session, and I really appreciate that how wonderfully and how excellently you described all the situations with wonderful examples and wonderful life incidents. But actually, these are some things which audience can relate through. These are some things which audience can, the people, the participants who are connected with us, they can relate in their life and in others' life too. So this
Exactly.
is the way, this is, I think, the best way to explain this topic, and we can talk on this topic a lot. And this
Yeah.
topic is really, really very interesting and huge topic to be discussed in every platform possible. Like, according to me, this topic should be a star topic in a school and an institute and in colleges and in universities too. Everywhere this topic should be discussed in a priority way. This is my opinion, which it should be like. And, uh,
You're right.
but ma'am, really, you explained it very nicely, ma'am. I was really listening, very listening to you. The examples were so super awesome, and the examples were really very good. Thank you, ma'am, for being with us. And
Thank you.
a lot of audience were connected, and even from Renais Foundation School, Panvel. So, audience from there also connected from us. Thank you for participating, and I
Thank you.
do thank all the audience and the participants from United Foundation School, Panvel, to join this session. And other
Thank you.
than that, we have a list of participants who have been joining us, and a lot of comments were seen in the webinar. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for this wonderful session, ma'am. And
My
we will be
pleasure.
coming, we will be connecting again for some other session on some different topic. And ma'am is also a life skill trainer, and ma'am also takes sessions on life skills. So if you want to have a life skill session in your school, institution, college, so you can contact psychology, and we will be contacting ma'am simultaneously so that we can have a session with you. Thank you everyone for joining, and we will be back with another session. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. My pleasure.
So if you have not subscribed to our channel yet, you can subscribe to our channel so that you can attend all the free events and the informative events and informative webinars, seminars, and workshops. And if you are a psychology student, you can contact Psychology Connect. This is the platform which is being organizing a lot of events for psychology students and also conducting many internship programs for psychology students. And not only this, the internship programs are totally verified. And these internship programs will help you to learn and to understand the topic in brief. Not only you can get achievement in your internship, particularly by preparing your practical file and everything, you can also learn a lot in your academics by joining the internship program. So if you are a psychology student and if you are studying in open university or even in regular university and you want to do an internship program, so this is the correct platform. Then you can connect with us on Psychology Connect. So we have currently organized 20 plus 20 plus internship programs, not free basically. Free are the webinars which we do provide it for totally free of cost. You can attend them, and this is all from us. Thank you for connecting, and we will be getting back again in webinar number 96. So thank you everyone for connecting. Do like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so that you do not miss any regular updates. Thank you.